Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Be bold, be brave, be extraordinary, be vulnerable, be real, be curious, be true, be you. Welcome to Trusting Your Gut with world-class energy intuitive Catherine McIntosh, a show designed to awaken you to enjoy the process of evolving, have fun along the way, and learn to listen to those silent in-between moments. You are the expert of your own life, and nobody knows more about the next steps to take in your journey than you. So please, listen to your gut and discover what's waiting for you to explore. Here is your host, Catherine McIntosh.
All right, my magical friends. So, welcome to today's episode. As always, we have a special episode for you. And this topic today is very near and dear to my heart and kind of a new thing that I've been exploring. And actually, it came out of a class. I just did a 5-day breakthrough body challenge, which with a bunch of people from around the world. And the target of the challenge was to help people break through, to break free of the stuff that doesn't allow them to transform their bodies with ease. So maybe it's to lose weight and to keep the weight off. For some, it might be the struggle they have mentally with how they see themselves, whether they have body dysmorphia or really struggle with their relationship with food. For some, it's pain and this chronic pain that just never seems to go away no matter what they do. And for others, it's also navigating anything that they may be struggling with in terms of dis-ease or something they've been diagnosed with. And what came out of that challenge was this concept that I've been playing with for a long time, but we really opened up this conversation, and I'm going to deliver it to you today so that it may impact and contribute to you in your health journey, in your life journey, in your relationship journey, and in your abundance journey. And so this topic is really exploring the difference between changing things and fixing things. And I think in this reality, we're programmed to look for what's wrong and try to fix it. And I don't know about you. I've kind of known I was what I'm calling a fixer, right? I have identified as a fixer most of my life. I've been a healer, I've been a helper, I've been a hairdresser, I've been a real estate agent, and I'm always trying to, help people fix things. And I get paid to help people fix things. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the identity of a fixer could be causing you way more health problems than you could ever imagine. And we're going to dive into why and what you can do about it. And so, the difference between being a fixer and fixing things versus changing things is fixing is always looking for what's wrong, always looking for what's wrong, and then trying to get rid of or eliminate what's wrong. Right. And so I'll give you a great example. Today, I had a private client and we were talking about they have this guilt in their world. And she said to me, I think I just need to get rid of it. And I said, well, here's the deal. There's 8 billion people on the planet, and every single one of you, if you're listening to this show, there is something inside of you that is very intuitive. You might be intuitive in relationships or intuitive in your parenting, or maybe you're intuitive in the way you do your finances. As a child, I was very intuitive on the soccer field and downhill skiing and on the volleyball court. Like, I was a very good athlete. I could see a play before the play was going to happen, right? And so what happens is when we're programmed and habitualized to look for what is wrong, we eliminate our intuition. So if there's 8 billion people on the planet and this woman wanted to get rid of guilt, I was like, well, you're probably picking up guilt from a lot of people around you. We tend to be aware of way more people and way more energies all around the world than we acknowledge. And once you begin to acknowledge that you're probably quite aware, that you're probably quite intuitive, then you can start to change this. So she's looking to get rid of guilt, and it's something that we talked about today. I said, you'll never be able to get rid of it. But what you will be able to do is change your relationship to feeling guilty. So you go from feeling guilty to recognizing that feeling guilty keeps you from your power. It keeps you from your intuition. It keeps you from doing the things you want. And so fixing this concept of fixing, people usually try to get rid of what they think is wrong instead of change their relationship to it. And so that's the big difference between fixing something and changing something. The idea of changing something from lack, right, is a fixing. And I'm going to talk about what happens to your body, to your nervous system, to your adrenals, to your lymph nodes, to your digestion when you're in fix it mode. But first, let's sort of navigate through the difference between the two. Okay. So fixing is always going to have this kind of idea that you have to get rid of it, right? You have to fight. You have to work really hard. Changing it, right? Fixing comes from lack. Changing comes from knowing you can create more expansion in your life. So it's this concept. Changing it is, how do you energize your power? How do you energize your intuition? How do you energize your gratitude? How do you energize what's working in your life, right? And when you energize what's working in your life, there's no room to focus on what's not working, and what's not working will begin to heal, transform, release, and you'll change your relationship to what it is you think you need to do. So when we're in fix it mode, here's what happens to the body. And I just find this absolutely fascinating. Now, I want to remind you, I'm not a doctor, right? This is my own experience of facilitating for over 11 years, for working with bodies all over the planet for over 20 years, and for making a really big difference in people's lives. But I also am always interested in my own evolution. And I'm fascinated by what we can create when we shift our perspective on the things we think we need to fix. So when you're in fix it mode versus energizing mode, usually when you go into fix it mode, you're in people pleasing, you're trying to make things around you better. And I find that people who identify as fixers, they tend to be healers, they tend to be empaths, they tend to be sensitive and intuitive to energies around them. They tend to get sick easier. They tend to struggle with their body weight and their body image more. They tend to live with a lot of stress and anxiety, right? Because here's what, this is just from my own personal experience and from working with thousands, if not tens of thousands of people all over the world, is this concept of fix it usually comes when you are raised in an unsafe environment, when you're possibly raised in a war zone, if you are in a family where there's a lot of conflict and not much peace, when there's a lot of blaming and shaming going around. And so if you grow up in a tumultuous background and upbringing, then what you begin to do is you begin to stop focusing on regulating your own emotions. You stop focusing on regulating your nervous system. We're not taught this, right? And what you end up doing is you start focusing outside of yourself. And the way that you sort of navigate your own energy is by figuring out the energies around you and then tiptoeing around them or trying to make other people happy or trying to fix conflict. And all that does is get you in trouble. So let me tell a little story to uh, illustrate this point. This is years ago. All right. I was living in Boulder, Colorado with my soon to be husband. And every fall around this time of the year, go, um, we would go on like a journey. And for us, it was like a sort of spiritual journey where we would sort of prepare our dreams and our visions of the future and the things that we wanted to create and the things we wanted to work on and the things we wanted to commit to. And we'd get up really early, like 3:30 in the morning. We'd get in the car and we would drive up to this lookout place in oh gosh, Estes National Park. And there's this perfect place where you can watch the sun rise. And as the sun rose, we'd watch the elk rut in the morning. We'd go, after watching the sunrise and setting our intentions and letting things go, we'd then go down, have breakfast and make a whole day out of it, watch the elk rud and all this really cool stuff. And so one of these moments, we got up really early, we get in the car, he's driving his great truck and, we're drinking our coffee and we're waking up and I'm not feeling good. But here's the deal. I don't know that I'm not feeling good. And something in my world feels off, but I don't know that it's me, right? Because I was in a fix it mode, because I grew up in a very tumultuous, family background and really spent a lot of my childhood not feeling safe, unbeknownst to me, right? So my nervous system was irregulated, my emotions were irregulated, and I learned to survive by focusing on where everybody else's energy was, but I rarely learned to focus on my energy. So I'm feeling really off. And, I'm pretty silent in the car. I can feel tears. I can feel anger and frustration. But again, I don't think it's me. I think it's because of my environment or it's because of, my soon to be husband who became the father of my son. And so we're driving. Finally, it's just boiling up in me. And I, say to him, I say, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm great. We're going to go do our thing that we do every fall." And I was like, "Are you sure you're okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm great." Like, and, so I sit in silence for a little bit and I'm like, it doesn't feel true that he's okay. Something is off. He must not be okay. It must be him, right? A logical thing to think. And as the time passes, I keep asking, like, "Are you sure you're okay? Are you sure something's not off? Did I do something wrong?" Right? This is where you know that you grew up in an environment where you didn't feel safe. So you stop learning to regulate your own emotions. And as I continue asking, he's starting to get frustrated. He's starting to get upset. And finally, he just looks at me. He's like, "I'm fine. Are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm not okay." And I just start crying, right? And I start just letting this wall of emotion that had been building up in me and this tension and this anxiety and this worry and neglect and abandonment and all this stuff just starts pouring out of me. And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm not okay." And it was the first time in my life that I realized how deeply rooted I had spent the majority of my life trying to fix those around me, make other people happy. So I tell people now, right? I am a recovering people pleaser, right? When you grow up in toxic environments, you learn to people please, to dance around, to make other people happy. Like I just had another session with another client this morning, and she was navigating this exact thing. She was battling and in conflict with herself because her being, her spirit, her just brightness wanted to choose something, and she was feeling conflicted wanting to make other people happy, right? And so she was rejecting the one thing that would change her life the most, which was committing to her, committing to the career path that she's on that she really loves. But there was all this conflict in her that we navigated. So I said, I want you to start saying to yourself, you're a recovering people pleaser. And so it was the first experience, this experience that I had with my soon to be husband. It really made me realize how much I'd spent my entire life navigating everyone else's emotions but my own. And so, what happens when you learn to do that, you are in chronic 24/7 fight or flight. Now, fight or flight is an amazing resource to have when you need to survive. But what's happened in our culture and in society is then we end up living in 24/7 fight or flight. And when we're in fight or flight 24/7, we can't regulate our emotions. Our metabolism shuts down. Our blood like starts to slow down. We have stress pumping through the body, high levels of cortisol for long periods of time, and cortisol is linked to keeping weight on. Cortisol is also linked um, oh my gosh, my brain, I've been talking all day. Cortisol is also linked to not being able to lose weight, right? And so, that's when, if you're in constant chronic 24/7 fight or flight, when you're, no matter what you try to do to change your body, get out of pain, lose weight, get healthier, build muscle, whatever it is, and it's not effective, right? And you're doing something that should be effective, but it's not effective. It's probably a sign that your nervous system is in 24/7 fight or flight survival mode, right? And so being a fixer can be a very toxic thing, and over time can stress the body out to a point where it's not running at its optimal. And that has a huge impact on our intuition, on our ability to receive ideas. It has a huge impact on our ability to receive abundance. And most people who are in fix it mode tend to function from a lack mentality. So a glass half empty mentality, which is just wild to me. And so the next time you find yourself in what might be presented as I need to fix this, right? I want to encourage you to consider that perhaps there is nothing to fix, no problem to solve, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You are a magical, incredible, alive being, and your body doesn't want to be sick. Your body doesn't want to break down. Your body doesn't want to gain weight, right? Your body simply wants to live at its optimum. And so, what can you do, right, to begin to change that pattern? Is you want to start to look at this idea of how do I change things, right? Oh, I can change things, right? Not from something's missing or something's wrong, but how do I energize my power? How do I energize my intuition? How do I energize what is working and the gratitude that I can feel in the world. And I promise you, when you start doing this, your life will change. And so, I have on my website this free download. It's a 4.5 minute video, pretty cool, with somatic exercises. And I will tell you that these somatic exercises helped release decades of trauma out of my body. It helped change my need to be a fixer. Now, I'm still working on mine, right? But I am learning to let go of this identity that things need to be fixed. And I will tell you, it is changing the way that I'm showing up with my clients, with sessions, with my life in general, and all of my relationships. I'm learning. It is a process, right? I'm learning to be a listener instead of thinking that my role is to change those around me. My role, right, is to energize my internal power so that I'm more resourced, right? And so this isn't about, be happy with, well, it is good to be happy with where you are, but it's also good to want to continue to evolve and become a better version of yourself every day. And the way that you do that isn't by looking at what needs to be fixed, but how can you empower you to live your best life, to get out of chronic fight or flight? So you can go to catherinemcintosh.com and download your free version of this 4.5 minute video on somatic exercises that will help regulate your nervous system. It will help take you out of chronic fight or flight. Now, you want to do these every day and you want to do them consistently. And, through this class that I just facilitated with people from around the world, some of the people were noticing that doing the somatic exercises were either making them nauseous, making them dizzy. They were starting to feel stressed, like not feeling safe. And I said, that's the energy that's trying to come out of your body. And so when we heal things out of the body that have been stuck in the body for a really long time, right? Like anger. We store anger and regret in our hips, right? We tend to store fear in our kidneys. We might store guilt in our liver and spleen or in our heart, or we might, sort of like hold back our willingness to speak what we know, right? And our willingness to speak and communicate what we really want to. That affects the thyroid, it affects the self-esteem, it affects the blood flow in the heart and the rest of the body, right? Really, really powerful stuff. And so, for all of you out there listening, I want to encourage you that perhaps, if you're listening, perhaps you might notice that you've been stuck in fix it mode. You got to fix your body. You got to fix your belly. You got to fix your cellulite. You got to fix your wrinkles. You got to fix your money problems. You got to fix the roof on your house, right? You got to fix your car. And you might be stuck in this concept of considering there's always something to fix. Well, when there always is something to fix, there's no space to energize. And so I want you to consider what it would be like if you spent the next 30 days energizing from the inside out, right? And, coming from also a chronic fixer, so I'll say this, right? First time I'm saying it, I am a recovering fixer, right? There is no problem to solve. There is nothing wrong. And there's, um, what is it? There's nothing to fix, no problem to solve, and there's nothing wrong with you. And I can't take credit for that phrase that actually I got that from a beautiful man named Tom, who he and I used to do energy work with each other. He's a really powerful healer in Aspen. I'm not sure if he's still doing work, but he gifted that to me several years ago, and it always stuck with me because every time I would come in and see him for a session, he would say to me, I would always go into what I needed to change, what I needed to fix. And when he gave me that statement of, what if there is nothing to fix, no problem to solve, and there's nothing wrong with you? I went, wait, what? Excuse me? Are you speaking English right now? Right? And I realized, wow, I never relax. I never allow. I never take time to be grateful for everything I've created in my life. And it really changed the way that I started showing up in my life. Because I was like, wow, if there was nothing to fix and no problem to solve and nothing wrong with me, what would I want to be doing with my energy in my life? And it was a big pivotal moment for me. And so, for all of you out there listening, I want you to consider that although trying to fix other people's problems, trying to heal other people's pains. Now, we're talking about like people in your life that you love that might be suffering, and no matter what you do to try to help them, nothing seems to shift, or they always seem to be living in victim mode. Now, if you are a healer by trade, or you are in a healing profession, right? The medical profession, I believe that hairdressers are huge healers. It's how I got to become what I am today. Is I became a hairdresser, and never in a million years did I think that I would ever be a hairdresser. But the energy on it was so expansive that I knew I had to say yes. And so if you're a teacher, if you are, in the healing arts business, like if you are communicating and connecting with people all day long, chances are you're in a healing profession, or you are just a healer wherever it is you work. And so there's nothing wrong with people coming to you to change. They're usually ready for it. I'm talking about the people in our lives who they say they want to change, but actions always speak louder than words. And no matter what you do to help them, you're met with a lot of resistance. You're met with frustration or anger or sadness or pain. And it's usually a clue that the person that you're trying to help doesn't really want to help, doesn't really want to be helped, and they may have given up. So, we're going to talk more about this and what you can do about it after we come back from break. So, stay tuned.
Om Times TV.
Do you trust you? Do you trust your body? What if the key to unlocking the weight, pain, suffering, fear, anxiety, addictions, traumas, and sorrows was already inside of you? Learn to love the skin you are in so you can create the body, business, and life you love. Everyone always says you can't explain what Catherine does, you just have to experience it. From Hollywood actors to New York Times best-selling authors to some of the world's wealthiest and most successful, no two experiences are the same. For private sessions, online courses, live events, and the latest book Jack Canfield calls Game Changer and should be required reading for everyone, go to katherinemcintosh.com. KatherineMcintosh.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be. by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Okay, my friends, we're back from break. So we got a few tips for you if you have been listening to the show. And if you are listening live, you are welcome to call and ask any question you have if this topic resonates with you and you're like, oh my gosh, Catherine, I am definitely a fixer. So let me give you the phone number. If you would like to call in and ask us a question live, the phone number is 202 570-7057, and we take live callers. So feel free and I will download whatever I can for you. So a couple things as we navigate this conversation on the difference between changing and fixing. Really, it's to look at, are you a fixer? Are you someone always looking at what's wrong? You're looking for the lack. Well, when you look for lack, you get more lack. And guess what? Lack creates stress. Stress increases your cortisol levels. Your cortisol levels keeps your body from losing weight. It keeps your nervous system from being at a pretty high taxed state. And when your nervous system doesn't regulate, it's hard to regulate your emotions. You're on edge most of the time. You feel stress. And of course, over time, 24/7, for weeks or months or years at a time, this definitely can take a toll on our health. And so now more than ever is a great time to change that paradigm within you. And how do you do it? You begin to look at what can you change. So we all know you can't change anybody else, right? Like that prayer of God grant me the serenity to change the things I can, what is it? Knowing that you can only change yourself. And I forget the prayer, I apologize. But the point is when we're spending all of our time and energy trying to change others, it can be quite stressful. And it keeps you from being present with yourself. It keeps you from regulating your own emotions and your own nervous system. And the last 4 to 6 months, I have been focused on this internal journey of, wow, how do I, you know, begin to regulate my own emotions? How do I begin to connect to myself? And as I've been doing it, as I've been doing the somatic exercises, as I've been walking instead of over exercising, which also was a 24/7 stressor on my body, I have been able to now fit into a size 2. I've lost 15 pounds. I feel amazing. And there's a lot of other subtle things I'm doing, but here's the deal is the choice was really easy to make once I regulated my nervous system. And when I started regulating my nervous system, I had more energy to expand, to energize, and to focus on following the lightness, right? So when you're a fixer, chances are you're focused on results. Is the result happening? Did the result happen? Let me get to the result. Let me get to the result. Let me get to the result. And then I'll be happy. It never works that way because you get to the result and you're still programmed for this lack, right, mentality. And so the way to evolve that, to begin to shift to a glass half full, not half empty, is to begin to look around you and see all the beauty that already is in your life. To be in 100% allowance of everybody else's emotions, right? And the way that they navigate them, and then to pay attention to yours, right? Really important. And so, one of the things that I invite people to look at is when they say to me, I have diabetes, right? And I say, great. When you say that out loud, does it contract your energy, right? Because any contraction, glass half empty, right? Lack mentality, any contraction in our world is a stress on the nervous system, spikes the cortisol levels, regulates the hormones, regulates the nervous system, right? And it's fine to have that happen on and off throughout the day. It's if it's chronic that it becomes a challenge, right? So I invite people when they say, "Oh, I have this problem." I say, "Great." When you say that out loud, does it contract your energy or does it expand your energy? Right. And so, what I invite people to do is look at, right, when you say, I feel guilty, does it contract your energy or expand your energy? Chances are it contracts your energy. So, you can't get rid of the feelings of guilt, but you can change your relationship to guilt. So, what I say to people is, okay, I feel guilty, that contracts my energy, it stresses me out, all the health things that come with it that can create a challenge. And so then I say to people, okay, what's a thought that you can replace it with, right? And Joe Dispenza talks about this all the time. He's like, all you got to do is replace your old habits with new ones, replace your old thoughts with new thoughts, right? You have to make the future far more valuable, more important than the past, right? But what happens is when we're in fix it mode, what are we trying to do? We're trying to fix the past. We're trying to fix the things we can't change, right? Never works. And then the nervous system gets taxed. And then you go on a diet, right? And you do the diet plan as it says, but you're in 24/7 fight or flight. No amount of what you do is going to help, right? You lose weight. It might help somebody else who has a regulated nervous system, but if your nervous system is out of whack, it's not going to help you long term. Really powerful stuff. Really, really powerful stuff. And so what I say to people is like, okay, if you say, I feel guilty, I'm afraid, I don't have enough money. I invite people, try eliminating the things that you say that contract your energy, catch it in the moment and ask, okay, what can I replace that with? So if I, were to say, I'm just trying to think of something that maybe someone came up with today. Um, yeah, let's use guilt. I feel guilty, right? It's a contracted energy. I feel afraid. I have fear, contracted energy, right? Now, once in a while, maybe saying I'm afraid will expand your energy. I'm not sure, but check in with yourself every time you catch yourself saying it and just go, okay, what's my truth? And so the way to do it is to go, okay, that's a contracted energy. Now, what can I replace it with that has the opposite effect that expands? Because even just doing this, right? Opening up your arms. If you can't see me on video, I've got my arms outstretched, totally open. Just doing this, right? What? It's a receiving mode. It's a willingness to, right? Relax the nervous system. La la la, right? And so, um, you can replace the I feel guilty with, wow, I, right, hinder my ability to make an impact in the world when I choose to feel guilty. So today when I was working with a client, I said, feeling guilty and believing that you should feel guilty, it contracts your energy every time. It's the equivalent of inviting a rattlesnake to sleep in between you and your husband. And she just started laughing. I was like, "Yeah, it's poisonous." You wouldn't take a glass of water that I said, "Hey, here's some poison. You should really drink it." Every time that you believe that the stuff that you're saying and it's simultaneously contracting your energy, every time you believe it, it's like drinking poison, right? You're poisoning yourself and you're preventing yourself, or you're creating conflict and creating a distance between you and achieving your dreams, right? It's really powerful stuff. Excuse my yawns. So I can tell we're clearing a lot on the planet just with this conversation. We're opening up a different vibration, and yawning is usually how my body in particular learns to clear. And so, for all of you out there struggling with your body weight, struggling with your body image, struggling with pain, maybe you're struggling with a dis-ease, I want to invite you to consider, what are all the beliefs, right, that you have um, believed to be true that you keep repeating to yourself? And every time you repeat it and you can catch yourself in the moment, you go, okay, does that contract or expand my energy? It contracts. Okay, what can I replace it with? Wow. It's it's actually a kindness to me to create a life I love, right? Or it's um it's good to feel good, right? Or just whatever it is you want to replace. I've talked about in the past that there's three core foundational wounds. I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, and I'm not worthy. And one of the things I do with people is I say, just start when you catch yourself thinking those thoughts, right? I want you to just replace them with I am enough, I am lovable, or I am worthy. And just doing that alone. Yep. There goes another healing. Just that alone begins to regulate the nervous system. And so please don't think that you need to get rid of what you think is ailing you, but instead maybe you can consider, oh, I don't need to get rid of it. There's 8 billion people on the planet. There's a lot of lack going around, but guess what? There's also a lot of abundance, right? Last night I was with a friend, and um he gave me a completely different perspective on something that I was repeating to myself, that guess what? Unbeknownst to me, I had to catch myself or have someone in my life call me out on it. Unbeknownst to me, it was a contracted energy. And guess what? I've been saying this to myself for a long time. So I was like, wow, okay. So what would I replace it with? A completely different thought that has this energy of, arms wide open, heart wide open. Oh, excuse me. And by the way, if you guys didn't listen to last week's episode, I definitely talked a lot about yawning. We talked about if you're a healing body. And so when you're a people pleaser or a fixer, chances are you have a healing body. And when you do that, you also really might struggle with body image, body weight, food addiction, self esteem issues, right? All that stuff. And so it's up to you to begin to heal it. And if any of you are curious and you're like, oh my gosh, I think I'm a chronic people pleaser and I think I'm a chronic fixer, and I so relate, Catherine, to what you are talking about. I've got a live event coming up next weekend, and it's 3 days online live. And we are going to basically facilitate you to fire your people pleaser, to fire your fixer. That doesn't mean you don't show up and heal. It means that if you can get yourself to a place of this concept of there's nothing to fix, there's nothing wrong, and there's no problem to solve, right? It allows for you to be a space for healing to happen. The body is naturally a healing body, right? The body loves to regenerate its entire cellular genetic makeup, right? Every 7 years. And so that means that the dis-ease in your body can heal when you change from a glass half empty to a glass half full. And so start asking, does this thought that I keep repeating, right? I needed a friend to call me out on my stuff yesterday. Does this create a contraction or does it create an expansion? If it creates a contraction, what can I replace that thought with? Right? If it creates an expansion, keep going, right? Go for the expanded thoughts, feelings, and emotions, right? Go for the things where in your life there is a big yes, right? Big yes, and say no to the things that begin to contract. And if you do this and you can get rid of your people pleaser. So, how do you know you're a people pleaser? You feel the need to justify every no you ever say, right? You also feel the need to over explain. You feel the need to say yes when it's actually a no. And all of those things have an impact on the health in the way that we talked about in today's show. So I want to invite you, if you think this is you, somebody who struggles with their weight, who constantly yo-yos, who feels like it's not possible for them, you're focused on losing the weight, thinking that will get you to be happy. You're focused on getting out of pain, thinking that will get you to be happy. You're focused on making the money, thinking that that will get you to be happy. You want to start to choose happy, right? So if you're somebody who struggles with weight, struggles with pain, struggles with your self-image or self-esteem, perhaps, and you've tried absolutely everything, you probably haven't tried a 3-day workshop with me. And this weekend in particular, we're going to spend some extra time on firing the people pleaser, firing the fixer, so we can regulate your nervous system. We can regulate your hormones. We can drop the cortisol. And I will tell you, the impact of it is ginormous. Now, I'll warn you, if you're impatient, it's going to slow the process. Okay, I'll say that again. If you're impatient, it's going to slow the process. But if you're invested in, I'm along for this ride because I notice that I'm starting to feel better by regulating my nervous system. So making your emotions and where you're at, it's okay, right? I say to people all the time, it's not your fault where you're at. It's not. But guess what? It is your responsibility to change it moving forward. And you can't change it by trying to fix it. You got to change it by energizing that power, that potency, that magic inside of you. And, there are so many different ways to do it, but the ultimate thing to start to pay attention to is the choices in your life. Do an inventory of your daily life. And I want you to start to take notice of how many things you're doing on a daily basis where you feel contracted. And I want you to pay attention to what you can do that helps you to start to feel expanded in every area, right? And the more expanded you feel, the more you will change your body. So when I started doing this, I wasn't going for a result of weight loss. I was going for a result of I wanted to feel better, right? I was sort of hijacked by menopause, and I hope to have more and more conversations about hormones and cortisol and why, if you are working really hard to lose weight, right? And you just aren't seeing any effects. If you're working really hard to feel better about yourself and your body, and you're just not quite moving the needle far enough forward in the way that you would like, chances are that you've got this thing with your nervous system and your hormones and your cortisol levels, which impact your thyroid, it impacts your adrenals, it impacts your thymus, it impacts your liver's and spleen's ability to eliminate toxins, it impacts your kidneys and your heart's ability to regulate blood, it impacts your digestion and your good gut microbiome, like all the things. So if you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so speaking my language," you're invited to a 3-day live online workshop with me, and we have one coming up this weekend, right? And check it out because it could be a window into, right, learning how to build a new foundation, right? And, a lot of people, when they go to build a new foundation, except especially from like a energetic perspective, they bring the old foundation with them. They're like, yeah, but this, and yeah, but I feel guilty, and yeah, but I'm afraid, and yeah, but it doesn't work. And I was like, yeah, that's your old foundation. We're going to build a new foundation and get you regulating everything you can. And so that little tweak of, does this contract or expand my universe? And if it contracts, what can I replace it with? Another great question to ask is, what's the conflict here? What's the conflict that I have in my system, right? Where am I not um, noticing the change? So, my friends, that's kind of all I got for you today. If you want to check out the live event happening this coming weekend, you are invited to go to katherinemcintosh.com. You can click on live events and you will see the Don't Diet, Be Happy 3-day workshop happening this month in September. So, and you can always check it out if you catch this recording far off in the future. We post our live events and all of the upcoming things. There's also a um, 3-month intuitive energy course I teach, and I teach people how to, right, become better at reading energy, how to become a better healer. And whether you're a teacher or an acupuncturist or a massage therapist or whatever it is, this is about growing exactly what I'm talking about, that energizing energy inside of the body. And I promise you, if you are a fixer, you definitely want to check it out. And so that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for being here. And I can't wait to connect with you wherever it is in the world. And if you like today's episode, please share it. Please like, comment. The more feedback, the better. And the more you share it and the more people that start to receive this information, sometimes less is more. Sometimes slowing down and regulating your emotions and regulating your nervous system is the way. And as always, continue to stay true to you and never give up on your dreams. So thanks for listening, and I can't wait to see you next week.
Catherine is not a medical practitioner nor a licensed therapist. She has strong opinions and will express them, and truly believes that you are your best advocate for any and every area of your life. If you need medical advice, please consult your physician.